Okay, we are on to Rule 12. The rule which we have now to consider carries us into realms of extraplanetary energy, into a world of a larger consciousness towards which the higher initiates strive, and which is related in a peculiar way to both the past and the future. This rule might also be called the formula controlling the work of the new group of world servers. The three remaining rules for initiates and disciples are concerned with the work of the new age and the coming revelation, which will make that work both new and possible. They are therefore of supreme importance to us. Step by step, in the 11 rules already studied, we have seen the initiate or disciple carried from his position as an accepted disciple, standing before the angel of the presence, to that point of attainment where the spiritual will is released in full service and with full comprehension at the time of the fourth initiation, where Atma, or pure spirit, is in control, where the spiritual triad is expressing the nature of the monad, where identification with the purpose of deity has transcended illumination of the mind and has also transcended cooperation through pure love with the plan. These words are all attempts to indicate the path of progress, which is, to the initiate consciousness, the necessary preparatory stage to treading the path of the higher evolution, just as the probationary path is the necessary preparatory stage to being accepted into an ashram. Briefly, the 11 rules already dealt with might be regarded as controlling the conscious activity of the initiate in the following stages and relationships. 1. The stage of the burning ground and the establishment of illumined group relation. This is revealed by the mind functioning as an aspect of the group mind. 2. The stage of ashramic recognition and the establishing of a forward-moving group rhythm. These reciprocal activities produce a needed group tension. 3. The stage of emitting the group sound and the establishing of the power to invoke divinity, followed by a united group realization that God is fire. 3. The stage of emitting the group sound and the establishing of the power to invoke divinity, followed by a united group realization that God is fire. 4. The stage of extinguishing the lesser fires through the means of the above realization and the establishing of a defined group reaction to the divine purpose or will. This results eventually in a negation of the laws of karma and rebirth as they condition life in the three worlds. 5. The stage of triadal perception and the establishing of spiritual contact, thus negating both the life of form and the soul. Duality is no longer recognized. And 6. The stage of identification with the life aspect and the establishing of complete divine integration into the greater whole. The initiate then moves onward in life and not in consciousness, a concept and a truth which is not possible for you to understand at this time. 7. The stage of a group sounding forth of the word and establishing direct relation with Shambhala as an integral part of the hierarchy. This means the enunciation of a dual chord. 8. The stage of responding to the higher aspects of the 7 ray lives and establishing contact with the 3 and the 1. You can look at our chart. and to see what we mean by that. And this is done under the law of the supplementary 7. The stage of spiritual negation, as it is called, this establishes a new affirmative attitude and results in a recognition of the true nature of the one initiator. And 10, the stage of the dissipation of all veils and the establishing of the power to work with light energy, thus earning the reward of new utilized ability, or i.e., the ability to work with the consciousness aspect in all forms. And 11, the stage where the potencies of the death aspect of divine purpose can be used to carry out divine purpose, plus the establishing of complete identification as a group with the divine will. This marks the period of the great renunciation and prefaces the complete transition out of the fourth creative hierarchy, the human kingdom. This is a brief and inadequate summation of the more general and the more easily comprehended results of obedience to these rules. The initiate stands free and becomes consequently a dynamic factor within the working hierarchy. Rule 12 now becomes clear to him, not only through the realization induced by his illumined mind, but through the higher divine qualities which are related to the expression of the will and purpose of the planetary logos. It will, of course, be obvious to you that only those who have reached the stages of work described in Rules 10 and 11 will truly comprehend any meaning. I would warn you again that the obvious significance of the remaining 3 rules is not in reality the true spiritual significance, because we are in these rules dealing with the planned work of the hierarchy during the next great cycle, that of the Aquarian age. We shall therefore be considering those activities and plans which will usher in and mature that new culture and civilization which will slowly come into being when the world has straightened itself out after the process of the World War, 1914 to 1945. The rule runs as follows. Rule 12. Let the group serve as Aquarius indicates. Let Mercury speed the group upon the upward way, and let Taurus bring illumination and the attainment of the vision. Let the mark of the Savior, as the group toils in Pisces, be seen above the aura of the group. You will remember that the rule, as given to applicants, emphasized 1. The use of the hands in service for healing, blessing, and for invocation. 2. The mark of the messenger in the feet. This referred to the use of the intuition, which is governed by Mercury. 3. The use of the eye. This is not in reality the third eye, which is, after all, only a symbolic phrase, but the ability to use developed soul power. This is that intermediate potency found between the power of the mind and the dynamic electric energy of pure will. For the initiate, this rule simply carries the same message, but on an infinitely higher scale, and, if I may so express it, obedience to this rule calls in Aquarian energy, the reasoning power of Mercury, and the illumination of Taurus, in order to carry forward hierarchical work upon a planet and in a planetary cycle which have been conditioned by Pisces for more than 2,000 years. I would have you ponder on this, for in realization you will here have the formula for the work of the hierarchy as it reconstructs the world after the destruction wrought since 1900 AD. You have here also a great triangle of energies functioning through the medium of Mercury, the reasonable reasoning messenger of the gods. The hierarchy is, therefore, at this time, conditioned by three great constellations. One, Aquarius, the custodian of that life more abundantly, of which the Christ spoke, and which he can draw upon at this time in a new and dynamic manner in order to bring about the restoration needed. This energy is the implementing force of universality. It concerns the future. Two, Taurus, the revealer of the vision, the eye of the gods, the donor of illumination. It is that which concerns the present. And we have three, Pisces, the inspiration of the world savior, and also the field of salvation. It is the field of force in which the two other forces must work. It has been produced by the past. As these three constellations pour their energies into the great ashram of Sanat Kumara, the hierarchy, they are there concentrated and retained until released under the swift design of Mercury into the field of the human consciousness. The effect of this release is to awaken the intuition, governed as you know by Mercury, and to enlighten advanced humanity. It is through intuitive human beings that the knowledge of the plan is given to humanity, and the work of restoration can be carried forward. At this time, in a peculiar manner, the initiate consciousness sees the hierarchy as primarily energized by life and by the energy of Aquarius, carrying a hitherto unknown aspect of the life energy of deity. This is, of course, difficult for you to comprehend and will only be understood as it truly is at the close of the Aquarian age. The initiate sees the new group of world servers brought under the illuminating power of Taurus, with the rest of humanity still under the influence of Pisces. You have, consequently, the overshadowing rain cloud of knowable things hovering over humanity, just as the hierarchy overshadows the new group, and just as the soul overshadows the personality of man. You have all the needed illumination and light upon all the coming problems, waiting to precipitate itself through the new group of world servers under the influence of Taurus, the nurturer of all illumination, and you have humanity at the same time conditioned and made sensitive by Piscean energy during the last 2,000 years. You have, therefore, a condition of great spiritual promise, and in this combination of energies, you have present those forces which will implement the activities of the hierarchy, condition its initiates, affect every ashram, bring light into the present darkness, and, as can already be seen, stir into new understanding the present Piscean consciousness of mankind. It is in the new group of world servers that the training of the needed disciples for the ashrams of the masters takes place at this time in world history. This is a new hierarchical venture. And this group also accepted disciples learn to work in the same manner as does the hierarchy. The hierarchy works within the field of the world of human living. The new group provides a similar field for the new disciple. It is towards that group also that initiates in the various ashrams converge at times in order to study the caliber and quality of the disciples who are engaged in world salvage. For it is through these disciples that the hierarchy carries out its plans. Initiates do their main work upon mental levels and from behind the scenes, because of this, their potency is great. This is particularly so with those who have taken the third initiation. A certain percentage of them are, however, active out in the world of daily living. You need ever to remember that at this time the main technique of the hierarchy is that of conveying inspiration. The masters are not openly lecturing or teaching in the great cities of the world. They work entirely through their disciples and initiates. It will, however, be possible for them to appear increasingly among men and evoke recognition as the influence of Aquarius is more firmly established. The masters, in the meantime, must continue to work within the silence of the universal ashram, as it has been called, and from there they inspire their workers. And these latter, in their time and way, inspire the new group of world servers. You will note, therefore, that the effect of Aquarius upon the hierarchy, as far as you at your particular point in evolution can determine it, is to bring in the energy of Shambhala, which is essentially the energy of life itself, implemented by the will. This necessarily has created, and will increasingly create, major adjustments within the hierarchy itself. The principal type of energy hitherto used by the hierarchy is, as you well know, the energy of love. Now, to that must be added the energy of the life-giving will. New methods, new approaches to the human problem, and new modes of work will have to be tried. Experiment with the incoming forces will necessarily be the order of the day, though they will be experiments based upon vast knowledge and implemented with wisdom and understanding. It is the reaction of modern man to the ancient forces which produces the need for care. Mankind is oft unpredictable owing to the factor of free will. It is this which lies behind the training given to disciples, upon which I have already given you much instruction. The new techniques and changes approach from that of individual culture to united group progress will bring about many types of development. It is this different approach to the same basic problems which lies behind the new capacities which are emerging among disciples. It is this which enables disciples of experience to work at high speed and with a life potency that is unusual. I would have all disciples begin to train themselves to respond to the Aquarian energy now pouring into the hierarchy. Some of you can do so as accepted disciples and as members of my ashram. Take advantage, therefore, of the opportunity for re-energizing that comes to all those who have established contact via their souls with the hierarchy, or who are members of an ashram, or who, as probationers, are upon the periphery of the great ashram of Sunat Kumara, the hierarchy. This Aquarian influence produces mainly the intensifying of the hierarchical relationship to Shambhala, and therefore affects every member of his ashram, from the Christ down to the most newly accepted disciple. It is through the disciples that the new group of world servers are brought under the step-down Aquarian influences. This has to be an individual matter, largely dependent upon the point of evolution. Some members of the new group of world servers will not respond in any way. They cannot. Others will respond as fully as their spiritual status permits. This inflow of Aquarian energy is one of the factors which will enable the Christ to complete his task as world savior and world teacher. It will also enable him to take the initiation which lies immediately ahead of him and for which he has been preparing for close upon 3,000 years. So exalted and peculiar an initiation it is. It is this influence also which has enabled the Master R to assume the mantle of the Mahachohan and become the Lord of civilization, a civilization which will be conditioned by the rhythm of the seventh ray. Incidentally, it is this Aquarian influence which has given the adepts of the Black Lodge the power to bring universal death throughout the world. These evil beings have responded to the will energy of Shambhala and to the life-giving vitality, but have used it in keeping with their own evil intentions and with the power conferred by their standing upon the cosmic ladder of evil. Hence the war. I only mention this as a striking example of the oft misunderstood fact that the same energy or identical force will produce results within the consciousness of a Christ or within the consciousness of Antichrist. It is the same energy, but the forms upon which it plays differ so vastly that in one case the will to good is intensified, and in the others the will to evil. Energy per se is entirely impersonal. The group, therefore, which serves as Aquarius indicates, is the hierarchy. The group which is speeded upon the upward way is the new group of world servers. This group is ruled by Taurus, and to it that divine Taurian energy brings illumination and the attainment of the vision. This group is, figuratively speaking, the bull rushing forward upon a straight line with its one eye fixed upon the goal and beaming light. But what is that goal? It is not the goal of self-illumination, for that lies far behind. It is the goal of providing a center of light within the world of men and of holding up the vision to the sons of men. Let this never be forgotten, and let the new group of world servers realize its mission and recognize the demands of humanity upon it. What are these demands? Let me enumerate them, and then let me ask you to take them in all simplicity and act upon them. It's 1, to receive and transmit illumination from the kingdom of souls. 2, to receive inspiration from the hierarchy and go forth, consequently to inspire. 3, to hold the vision of the plan before the eyes of men, for where there is no vision, the people perish. 4, to act as an intermediate group between the hierarchy and humanity, receiving light and power and then using both of these under the inspiration of love to build the new world of tomorrow. And 5, to toil in Pisces, illumined by Taurus, and responsive in degree to the Aquarian impulse coming from the hierarchy. These objectives are not only individual objectives, but the goal for the entire group. All who respond to the life-giving force of Aquarius and to the light-giving force of Taurus can and will work in a new group of world servers, even though they have no occult knowledge and have never heard of their co-workers under that name. Forget this not. Recognition of the successful work of the new group of world servers will be accorded by the hierarchy, and the testimony of the recognition will be the appearing of a symbol in the aura of the group, of the entire group. This will be a symbol projected by the hierarchy, specifically by the Christ. What that symbol will be, it is not for me to say. It is not yet fully earned, and only its dim and uncertain outline can be seen from the level of which the masters work, and not at all from the level on which the group itself works. It is the mark of a savior, and it will embody the mark or indication, the signature, as medieval occultists used to call it, of a new type of salvation or salvage. Up till now, the mark of the Savior has been the cross, and the quality of the salvation offered has been freedom from substance or the lure of matter, and from its hold, a freedom only to be achieved at a great cost. The future holds within its silence other modes of saving humanity. The cup of sorrow and the agony of the cross are well nigh finished. Joy and strength will take their place. Instead of sorrow, we shall have a joy which will work out in happiness and lead eventually to bliss. We shall have a strength which will know naught but victory and will not recognize disaster. Even the Black Lodge knew of this change in the mode of salvation and hastily founded its groups of youths banded together by the motto, joy through strength and strength through joy. It seems to be a law for group development to receive recognition from the side of evil prior to that recognition coming from the good. But after weeping cometh joy, and that joy cometh in the morning. Only the dawn is with us as yet, the dawn of the Aquarian age. The full tide of light is inevitably moving upon its way toward us. This rule tells us that the group toils in Pisces. This simply means that the field wherein the new group of world servers works is that of mankind, conditioned and ruled for the past 2,000 years by Piscean energy. This is, as you know, the energy which produces mediation and which develops sensitivity in the individual. The work accomplished by and through this energy is so successfully accomplished that it has produced a mediating group of servers. This group acts as an intermediary between the hierarchy and humanity, and it has also developed the sensitive response of humanity to contacts and to such a degree of sensitivity that the response to be accorded to the activities of the new groups of world servers is very real and cannot be negated. It should be remembered that the Piscean energy with which the group has to work is opposed to the incoming energies from the hierarchy and the new group of world servers. This is owing to the fact that the energy of this constellation is passing out concurrently with the sixth ray energy, with which it peculiarly coincided, as it is esoterically called. Hence the present difficulties, the passing out of the influence of Pisces, the slow withdrawal of the sixth ray force, the incoming Aquarian energy via the hierarchy, affecting at this time mainly the hierarchy itself and the mental and astral planes, are conditions to which we must look for the origin of all our present troubles. In this involved situation, you have a planetary demonstration of the significance of inner causes producing outer effects. Slowly, however, the hierarchy is beginning to implement both the Shambhala energy and that of Aquarius. The masters themselves have to learn how to use new incoming energies in the service of the plan, just as the individual has to learn in any particular incarnation to work with and use the available astrological forces which make their impact upon one or other of his bodies or upon his entire personality. Such energies, as you well know, can be turned to good use or to bad. It is not possible for the masters to turn energy to evil ends, but they necessarily have to master new techniques and the new methods of work called for by the new conditions. These can either affect the hierarchy itself or will produce reactions in the fourth kingdom and in the other kingdoms, producing rapidly changing orientation and attitudes. These forces and energies from the zodiac or from one or other of the seven rays have poured in and through our planetary life for countless aeons. Each time that they cyclically make their appearance, the forms and substance in the three worlds upon which they impinge and through which they pass are different in the degree of evolutionary response and of sensitive reaction to impact. The response and the reactions of the human family as a whole, or of the individual within that whole, will differ from that of the previous cycle. With these factors, the hierarchy has to contend, changing cyclically its technique and altering its modes of work in order to meet the changing need. Bear this in mind. This has never been more evident to the masters than today. The war might be regarded as a revolt by the form side of nature against the old conditions and against the new incoming conditioning factors on part of the Black Lodge. Between the two forces, one sensitive, onward moving, ready for that which is new and better, and the other reactionary, static, and determined to gain a stranglehold upon the life within the form, the hierarchy stands at the midway point. A, throwing back all its weight on the side of that which is new, spiritual, and desirable. B, adapting itself simultaneously to new conditions and new emerging factors. And C, standing like a wall of steel, unshatterable and immovable between humanity and the forces of evil. This has been an epoch of crisis and the great moment for which the hierarchy has been preparing ever since it was founded upon the earth. Slowly down the ages, men have been trained and prepared for initiation. They have been taught to develop the initiate consciousness. They have taken then their place within the ranks of the hierarchy and have later passed into the higher center, Shambhala. Paralleling this line of unfoldment of the individual, there has also been a great, though slow, expansion of the human consciousness and a gradual, steady progress forward into the light. It has now become possible to create the new group of world servers, men and women sensitive to the inner and newer vision and to the incoming forces and energies. Each group, therefore, whether it is the hierarchy, the new group of world servers, or mankind itself, is wrestling with its own interior problems of response, of recognition, and of responsibility. Each also is actuated by an outgoing movement in two directions, towards that which is higher and which indicates a better and more spiritual future, with all that implies, and also towards that which is rooted in and related to the past, which is crystallizing, reactionary, blind in its selfishness and materiality, and which is implemented to retain the old things which should pass away and to fight that which is new. As individual aspirants, you all know that this condition exists in the conflict waged interiorly and expressed exteriorly between the soul and the personality. The same conditioning factors can be seen also working in every group, organization, world religion, and in every nation as well as in the planet as a whole. Millions of years ago, the hierarchy realized that such a time of crisis and of conflict was inevitable. The easiest way to handle it would have been as lesser conflicts were dealt with in the past by a process of final intervention. Shambhala and the hierarchy could have unitedly ended this world crisis, but it would then have again arisen and have gone on arising until humanity itself ended it once and for all upon the physical plane. Of this situation, the determination of the United Nations to win and to enforce complete surrender upon the aggressor nations, which are the agents of the Black Lodge, is symbolic and also symptomatic of the progress of the human spirit. Again, well, this is written in September 1944. So this time the hierarchy refrains from outer action, but simply inspires and transmits the needed energy, leaving mankind to find its own way into freedom and out of Pisces into the aura and the field of activity of Aquarius, guided by those who are responsive to the illumination which Taurus confers. See you not the beauty of this plan and its synthesizing, culminating usefulness? See you not how the present crisis only indicates the success of the previous evolutionary cycles wherein humanity mastered certain lessons? All the post-war planning, the widespread reaction to ideals in spite of all the efforts of the evil and reactionary forces, and the seething turmoil reaching throughout all levels of human consciousness, plus the inspiration of disaster and suffering, are blasting open hitherto sealed areas in the minds of men, letting in illumination, sweeping away the bad old conditions. This is symbolized for us in the destruction of ancient cities and by the intermixture of races through the processes of war. This also signifies progress and is preparatory to great expansions of consciousness. These expansions in the human understanding will, in the next 150 years, completely alter the manner of man's thinking. They will change the techniques of religion. They will bring about comprehension and fusion. When this work has been accomplished, we shall record an era of world peace, which will be symbolic of the state of the human spirit. Men will then settle down to the great task which confronts all of us in the New Age, the task of dissipating glamour and of bringing about a clearer light upon the astral plane in the same way that better physical conditions will have been brought about upon the physical plane. All is planned and ordered. The right energies and forces will be available, for the hierarchy works ever under the law of cycles and of cyclic compensation. The masters know exactly that which must be done by right timing and by what has been called the crisis of spatial extension. They call this the interchangeableness of time and space, a meaningless phrase to you, but one which is already being dimly sensed. The two rules which remain for us to study concern the work of the hierarchy in the Aquarian age. Hence they are specifically for the more advanced disciples and for initiates. We have seen in many ways that, at this time, the hierarchy, because it is the ashram of Sanat Kumara himself, is coming peculiarly and in a new sense under the influence of his will nature. This means that the members of the hierarchy, familiar as they may be with the plan for the immediate cycle with which they and humanity are confronted, are being brought to a new and more appropriate conception of the divine purpose which lies behind the plan and which motivates it. The will of God is becoming plainer to them. It is taking on more definite lines. As our planetary logos nears the climaxing point of the initiation, which he is now undergoing, his ashram, the hierarchy, must and does, as part of a normal development, feel the effect. From the Christ down to the newest and latest accepted disciple, each in his own place, all are becoming increasingly responsive to the will of God. This does not take place in a blind, acquiescing manner, but with understanding and fortitude. This receptive attitude on the part of the hierarchy will bring about great, necessary, and unexpected changes. Some of these, I have earlier hinted, may now be taking place. Some will follow later. The following ideas may serve to clarify the whole concept in your minds. 1. The entire technique of training disciples for initiation and absorbing them into the various ashrams which constitute the great ashram of the Lord of the world has been altered. The masters are no longer concerned with an individual here or there who endeavors to go forward on the path, who evidences capacity, and who is apparently ready for what has been called the evocation of the initiate consciousness. It is becoming obvious to the hierarchy that with the arrival of the Aquarian age, group preparation, group initiation, and group acceptance must and will supersede the older methods. These older methods, built around the direct relationship between a master and a disciple, reached their highest point of usefulness early in the Piscean age. For nearly 2,000 years, these methods have proved so successful that the intensity of humanity's response is such that hundreds are now ready for absorption. This readiness and success present a difficulty and pose a problem for the masters, necessitating a reorganization of their plans and a readjustment of their techniques. 2. Not only has the individual approach to the hierarchy been superseded by a group approach, but it is now found to be possible to make a certain measure of the training objective and exoteric. Hence the establishment of the new group of world servers. This is primarily a group which, while working on the outer planes of daily physical living, yet preserves a close ashramic integration. It thus provides a field of service for accepted disciples who are seeking service expression, and it also provides a rallying point for all determined aspirants where they can be tried out and where their motives and persistence can be tested prior to direct acceptance. This is something new, for it shifts the responsibility of preparing aspirants for accepted discipleship onto the shoulders of the pledged disciple and away from the immediate attention of the accepting master. He is thus freed for other fields of service. This, in itself, is one of the major indications of success of the evolutionary process as applied to humanity. This shift was initiated by the Christ himself. He worked with men very frequently through others, reaching humanity through the medium of his 12 apostles, regarding Paul as substituting for Judas Iscariot. The Buddha tried the same system, but the relation of his group was, in the first instance, to him and not so much to the world of men. Christ sent his apostles out into the world to feed the sheep, to seek, to guide, and to become fishers of men. The relation of the disciples of the Christ was only secondarily to their masters and primarily to a demanding world. That attitude still controls the hierarchy, yet with no less of devotion to the Christ. What the Buddha had instituted symbolically in an embryo became factual and existent under the demands of the Piscean age. 3. The third great change has been in the relation of the hierarchy to Shambhala, and of this you can necessarily know and understand little. I could perhaps express the underlying significance to you in symbolic language. The energy emanating from Shambhala has been divided into two direct and distinctive streams. One stream, embodying the dynamic of purpose, is now pouring into the hierarchy and into the 7 major ashrams. Another stream, embodying the dynamic of determination or of enlightened enthusiastic will, is reaching humanity direct via the new group of world servers. Hitherto, a blended stream of Shambhala force has poured into the hierarchy and is now streamed in its undifferentiated type and quality into all the groups within the hierarchy. Now the quality of determination, or of what the average person understands by the use of the word will, with a capital W, is pouring into the new group of world servers, whilst the energy of dynamic purpose, differentiated into 7 diverging streams, is poured into each of the 7 points of reception, the master's ashrams within the ring-pass knot of the hierarchy. These 7 types of purpose embody the 7 energies, which will reorganize and redefine the hierarchical undertakings and thus inaugurate the new age. These 7 purposes might be called A. The unknown, unseen, and unheard purpose of Sanat Kumara. It is the secret of life itself and is known only to him alone. In its initial phase of this new expression, it works through the Manu and the Master Moria. It is that which veils the central mystery, which all esoteric schools, if true to their inaugurating impulse, will eventually reveal. What that is, we do not yet know, but it is hinted at in Rule 13. And B, the purpose underlying revelation. This may be a somewhat new idea to you, for you are apt to regard revelation as a goal in itself. You seldom consider it as an effect of the inner purpose of Sanat Kumara. The emphasis hitherto has been on the aspect of revelation, making it an effect of what the disciple has done with himself and by means of which he is enabled to be the recipient of revelation. Yet behind all the successive revelations of divinity down the ages is to be found one significant purpose. All of them are and will prove themselves to be aspects of the great revelation. It is through the process of revelation that divinity is slowly dawning upon the human consciousness. It is a sevenfold revelation. Each of the seven kingdoms in nature reveals one aspect of it, and each of these seven reaches revelation in 7 or 14 lesser revelations or phases. Ponder on this and learn to distinguish between vision, which is as much of the divine current revelation as a disciple can grasp in time and space, and revelation, which is the synthesis of the divine expressive purpose. This is related to the will to good, which is, in its turn, a complete expression of the love nature of deity. We have C, the as yet unrecognized purpose which evoked the creative activity of our planetary logos. This brought the third aspect of divine trinity into play. The usual reasons brought forward by the finite mind of man to account for what is called by us manifestation and to explain the dualism of all existence and the relation of spirit matter are by no means the real explanation of the divine purpose. They are based on man's own essential dualism. They are the highest explanation of his own divine nature, which he can achieve at this time. This is a point to be remembered. They are his response to the second ray of mutual attraction, which the ray of love wisdom is sometimes called. They are not an expression of his response to the will of God, and only indicate the limitations of his definition of divine purpose. As you will note, they really define nothing, nor can I help you to recognize this third aspect and the eternal purpose of the Lord of the world. Just as a soul seeks incarnation in order to carry forward some fixed design and to take one of the higher initiations, so Sanat Kumara came into incarnation through the medium of this planet in order to carry forward his fixed designs, known to him as a cosmic soul on cosmic mental levels, and to take one of the higher initiations which mark the path of initiation for these great informing lives of planetary spheres. He could take this particular initiation through the experience to be gained in a vehicle constituted, expressive, and at the special state of consciousness of our entire planetary manifestation. It required an instrument in which the cells and atoms of his body, all lives in all kingdoms, and the integrated organisms within that body, or the various kingdoms in nature, were at the peculiar point in evolution at which they are all now to be found. That is as far as I may go in giving you a hint, and you can see from this that in order to grasp more and comprehend more of his divine purpose, you also will have to be in preparation for that particular initiation, which for you, on your tiny level of awareness of fixed design, is the microcosmic parallel of his cosmic intention, which that initiation is, I may not state. The only service which these hints can render as to the sevenfold divine purpose of the consideration of them and the consideration is to develop in you, the disciple, the power to think abstractly, a much needed capacity before you can begin to tread the way of the higher evolution. For this, the 5 initiations open to humanity, as today constituted, prepare the human spirit. D, the mysterious purpose which has necessitated the calling into activity the principle of pain. Suffering and pain are essential requirements in order to carry this purpose to completion. The capacity to suffer, which is distinctive of humanity, is the outstanding conscious reaction to environment of the fourth kingdom in nature, the human. It is related to the power to think and consciously to relate cause and effect. It is a process on the way to something undreamt of today. And when I say this, my brother, I mean just exactly that. This same ability to respond through pain is not to be found in the sense in which the human being comprehends it in any of the subhuman kingdoms, nor in the superhuman kingdoms, any more than it was found in the previous solar system or will be found in the next. It is related to an aspect of the creative intelligence, an aspect and characteristic peculiar to humanity. This aspect was not found in the previous solar system, in which the other aspects of the creative intelligence functioned. In this solar system, it has been developed and brought from latency to potency in connection with the substance of the human bodies through which the human soul is gaining experience. It holds the secret of beauty and manifestation, and its first expression can be seen in the creative perfection of certain phases of art for which man, and man alone, is responsible. No other kingdom in nature creates forms, produces color and sounds in harmonious relation, except the human. All of this type of creative art is the result of aeons of conflict, pain, and suffering. The Jews as a product of the humanity of the previous solar system, and as constituting the incarnating residue from that solar system, have run the gamut of suffering and are in the forefront of the creative arts at this time, particularly in group production, such as certain of the great motion pictures, and in the field of scientific discovery. There will be, as you can well see, a close relation between this fourth purpose of Sanat Kumara, the fourth kingdom in nature, the human, and the fourth ray of harmony through conflict. It is the balanced relation of these three, consummated at the fourth initiation, which produces the full beauty of the creative fixed design of the individual soul, or, on a different level of initiatory process, of the fixed design of the universal soul of the Lord of the world. The fourth ray being temporarily out of full incarnation at this time is the reason for the relative interlude in the production of human creative art of a very high order. The cycle of suffering is nearing its close, and we shall later see, when the fourth ray again swings into full objective activity, a recurrence of the arts on a turn of the spiral far more exalted than any lately seen. The fifth great secret underlying the purpose of Sanat Kumara is related in a peculiar sense to the cyclic manifestation of all that is found in the three worlds of human evolution. It concerns that which is working slowly into manifestation through the medium of the lower concrete mind as it controls desire and brings substance and matter into conformity with the divine thought along this line. The sum total of the highest phases of human thinking along all lines materially affects what appears on the physical plane in all the kingdoms of nature, what precipitates civilizations and cultures, and which expresses the best response at the moment of human sensitivity to cosmic impression. This is all that can be said as we attempt to sum up the fixed desire and the pattern or purpose of divine activity down the ages. We know it to be profoundly inadequate as yet to express or to produce in manifested form the beauty of that design and to create in conformity with God's thought. But age by age, the thinking capacity of man and his creative imagination have wrought out the slowly unfolding design and will continue to do so. Every great world cycle sees the emergence of greater beauty and sees the subtle effects of man's thinking upon the subhuman kingdoms in nature, steadily bringing the unknown to the surface, altering the nature of the flora and the fauna of the planet, and preparing the way for that time of wonder when the hierarchy will again be exoterically directing the plan upon the earth and aiding mankind to work with a fuller understanding of the divine design. Here again is another reason for the changing plans of the hierarchy. The masters have to prepare themselves for this intended and imminent emergence. They are faced with the necessity of changing their techniques of work in order to meet adequately the demands upon them. It is far easier for them to work as illumined mind upon the mental substance of their disciples than it will be for them to work down upon the physical plane, relating the minds and the brains of advanced human beings. People are apt to forget that with each forward advance of humanity, the demands upon the hierarchy change, new needs must be met, new techniques used, new and experimental methods must be employed. As I write for disciples and initiates, I call this to their attention. Their work of mental training does not end as they attain certain spiritual initiatory goals. The fifth purpose is therefore closely related to the whole theme of the garment of God, to the emergence and the manifestation of his robe of beauty, as it is created and brought into being by humanity, acting as the medium for ideas from the superhuman kingdoms, and then influencing and swinging into creative cooperation the subhuman kingdoms. And F, it is difficult for me to give any idea whatsoever of the purpose with which we are now concerned, because it is expressed in the relation existing between the significance of desire, will, plan, and purpose. All these words are symbols evolved by man in his attempt to grasp logoic purpose. He recognizes the impulses of desire, and in the course of the evolutionary process, learns to transmute them into aspiration. He passes on to a vague groping forward in an effort to understand and acquiesce in the will of God, as he calls it. As long as, however, as human approach to that will remains negative, submissive, and acquiescent, as it does under the influence of the theological approach and in the manner inculcated by the churches, no real light on the nature of that will be seen. It is only as human beings enter into relation with the hierarchy and are gradually absorbed into the hierarchical life and begin to take the higher initiations that the true nature of the divine will be grasped, and the purpose of Sanat Kumara will be revealed by an appreciation of the plan, followed by a consequent cooperation with that plan. All this will be done through the transmutation of desire into aspiration and then into fixed determination. When, however, the initiate has related these phases of consciousness in his own inner experience and has permitted those inner realizations to affect his outer experience in daily living, then the underlying purpose will shine forth and he will no longer be working in the dark. You see, my brother, that all that I can do in these abstruse matters is to indicate what you can do as an individual to fit yourself to grasp divine purpose and thus see the divine design and patterns as they are in reality. Once you have taken the needed steps and complied with the requirements, the mystery disappears. G. The final phase of the divine purpose is the most difficult of all to indicate, and when I say indicate, I mean exactly that, and nothing more definite and clear. Does it mean anything to you when I say that the ceremonial ritual of the daily life of Sanat Kumara, implemented by music and sound and carried on the waves of color which break upon the shores of the three worlds of human evolution, reveal in the clearest notes and tones and shades the deepest secret behind his purpose? It scarcely makes sense to you and is dismissed as a piece of symbolic writing used by me in order to convey the unconveyable. Yet, I am not here writing in symbols, but am making an exact statement of fact. As beauty in any of its greater forms breaks upon the human consciousness, a dim sense is thereby conveyed of the ritual of Sanat Kumara's daily living. More I cannot say. Here are hints, therefore, as to the divine purpose. Each of the 7 supplements and completes the other 6. Only by attempting to grasp the whole inner synthesis will we arrive at the merest hint of the nature of that exalted consciousness which has brought our planet and all that is within it and upon it into being. Okay, we'll see you again for Rule 13 here quickly.